On the day I got fired, I brought home flowers and dinner just to make sure my wife didn't feel the weight I was carrying. She looked at the bouquet, snorted, and said, "What's this? A guilt gift from an unemployed clown." Then she threw it in the sink and said to our daughter, "See, that's what a failure looks like." I smiled and said nothing. 3 weeks later, my phone was flooded with 47 desperate messages begging me. So last month, I, 38 male, had what started as a normal Tuesday. Got up at 5:30, kissed my sleeping wife, Isabella, 36 female, on the forehead, made coffee, and headed to the office like I've done for the past 7 years. The structural integrity of my life seemed solid. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Around 10 a.m., Declan calls me into his office. That's when the first support beam snapped. Budget cuts, restructuring, nothing personal. My position was being eliminated. 7 years of loyalty and consistently exceeding targets meant jack shit when the bottom line needed trimming. I sat there like the floor had turned to quicksand, nodding mechanically while he spouted corporate bullshit about difficult decisions and valued contributions. The severance package was decent. 3 months' salary plus benefits. But that wasn't the point. My identity had just been jackhammered into rubble. I'd always been the provider, the stable one, the guy who got shit done. I sat in my car for 20 minutes just staring at the steering wheel. Didn't cry, didn't punch anything, just recalculating. Like when your GPS loses signal and has to figure out a new route. My brain kept glitching between panic and this weird calm. That's when I made a decision that, looking back, was the first nail in my marriage's coffin. I decided not to go home and wallow. Instead, I stopped at Trader Joe's, bought ingredients for Isabella's favorite pasta dish, grabbed a nice bottle of red, and picked up this gorgeous bouquet of lilies and hydrangeas. Cost me $65 I probably shouldn't have spent, but I thought we're a team. We'll weather this together. Oh, what a fucking idiot I was. Got home early. Spent 2 hours making everything perfect. Even found candles. Candles. The table looked like something from a rom-com dinner scene. I wanted to cushion the blow, show that even though I'd lost my job, I hadn't lost my ability to take care of my family, that would be okay. Isabella walks in around 5:30 with our daughter Catalina, 10 female, from her piano lesson. Takes one look at the table, the flowers, the whole setup, and her face just shifts. Not surprise, not appreciation, something else entirely. She looks at me and her first words aren't "What's the occasion?" or "This is lovely." Nope. She says, "Something happened at work." Her radar for problems has always been weirdly accurate. I tell her we need to talk after dinner, trying to keep things light in front of Catalina, but Isabella isn't having it. She demands to know right then. So I explain calmly, rationally, that there were cuts, that I've been let go, but that we have savings and severance, and I'll find something else quickly. That's when she looks at the bouquet I'm still holding like an idiot. She actually snorts. Then she says, "What's this? A guilt gift from an unemployed clown." The words hit like a wrecking ball. But what happened next destroyed the structure of what I thought our marriage was. She takes the flowers from my hand, walks to the kitchen sink, and throws them in. Actually throws them. Water splashes everywhere. Then she turns to Catalina and says, "See, that's what a failure looks like." Our daughter standing right there, looking confused and scared. I smiled and said nothing. Not because I'm some Zen master, but because I was in shock. The blueprint of our relationship suddenly looked completely different than what I'd been building from. Catalina started crying. Isabella told her to stop being dramatic. Dinner sat there getting cold while Isabella launched into a rant about responsibilities and mortgages and how she didn't sign up for this. That night, after Catalina was in bed, the real excavation began. Isabella laid into me about how embarrassing this was going to be. How was she supposed to face her friends? What about the Aspen trip they'd been planning? What about the country club membership? Not once did she ask if I was okay. I slept on the couch that night. Couldn't bear to lie next to her. While staring at the ceiling, memories started flooding back. Red flags I'd ignored. The way she'd flinched when my buddy Russell showed up in his 10-year-old Honda instead of his new Tesla that was in the shop. How she suddenly needed to reschedule dinners with my college friends who weren't successful enough. The comments about our neighbor's new pool and how some people know how to provide. Her constant scrolling through Instagram, obsessing over influencers' luxury vacations. The next morning, I started checking our finances while she was at her Pilates class. Found out she'd opened a separate credit card 6 months ago. Had racked up over $15,000 in charges at Nordstrom, Sephora, and weekend girls' trips that suddenly made sense given how distant she'd been. When Isabella got home, she was already on her phone telling her friend Rhonda how humiliated she was about my situation. Didn't even notice me sitting there with all our financial docs spread out. Later that day, she actually suggested I borrow money from my parents. My dad's a retired teacher and Mom works part-time at a library. Meanwhile, she absolutely couldn't cancel her upcoming spa weekend because appearances matter that night, while she slept soundly after making it clear intimacy was off the table with an unemployed man. I made a decision. I texted Russell, who'd been trying to get me to join his business for years, asked if his offer was still open. It was. For the next week, I played the part of devastated husband. Applied to jobs online where Isabella could see me doing it. But every day while she was out spending money we didn't have, I was meeting with Russell, planning something bigger. Isabella's cruelty didn't let up. She'd make comments in front of Catalina about how some daddies can keep their jobs and how we might have to downsize to a neighborhood with good security. Every dig, every snide remark, every disgusted look when I'd suggest cutting back on expenses, they were all bricks in the foundation of what was coming next. By week 3, the plans were set. Isabella still had no idea. She was too busy telling our friends how she was supporting her struggling husband while simultaneously withdrawing emotionally and financially. On day 21 after being fired, Russell and I finalized everything. That same evening, Isabella told me she was taking Catalina to her sister's for the weekend because she needed space from all this negativity. Perfect timing. The morning they left, my phone pinged with a notification from our joint account. Isabella had just withdrawn $5,000 for her mental health retreat with her sister. I smiled and finished packing my essential belongings. 2 days later, my phone started blowing up. First 5 messages, then 12, then 29. By the end of the day, 47 texts, calls, and voicemails. But that's a story for another post. This one's already too long, and to be honest, I need a drink just from writing it all out. The interest on emotional debt compounds daily. Update. First off, thanks for the insane response to my last post. Didn't expect 13,000 upvotes and a freaking Reddit gold. Some of y'all are way too invested in my dumpster fire of a marriage. Appreciate the support though. Helped me stay sane through what came next. Where was I? Right. 47 messages blowing up my phone. But let me backtrack a bit to fill in the 2 weeks between Unemployed Clown Day and the message explosion. The morning after getting fired, Isabella was already in full damage control mode. Not for my benefit, for her social standing. She literally made me promise not to tell anyone about the job situation until she could figure out how to frame it. Like my unemployment was some kind of PR crisis. Meanwhile, the kitchen sink flowers were still sitting there, sad and droopy, because she refused to throw them out. Said they were a reminder of consequences. Psychological warfare right there in our own kitchen. By day 3, something weird started happening with Catalina. She began asking me questions like if we were going to be homeless or if I was really a failure like Mommy said. Broke my fucking heart. I sat her down and explained that losing a job doesn't make someone a failure. It's just something that happens sometimes. She seemed to get it. Isabella walked in during this convo and rolled her eyes so hard I thought she'd strained something. Meanwhile, I was building scaffolding for what came next. Every morning, I'd make a show of searching job sites on my laptop where Isabella could see me. But as soon as she left for her daily workout or lunch with Rhonda, I'd switch to Zoom calls with Russell, hammering out details. See, Russell had been trying to get me to partner with him for years on his consulting business. I'd always declined out of loyalty to my company. Ironic, huh? But now the foundation was cleared for something new. The business plan was solid. We'd leveraged my technical knowledge and Russell's existing client relationships. Even conservatively, projections showed we'd be profitable within 6 months. Russell was stoked to finally have me on board. Kept saying we were going to crush it. Week 2 is when Isabella really ramped up the psychological demolition. She started with subtle sabotage, accidentally closing my laptop while I was mid-application, commenting about how my resume looked amateur compared to her friend's husband who knows how to format properly. Then one night after Catalina went to bed, she sat me down for what she called a reality check. Isabella explained that I needed to lower my standards, accept literally any job, even retail or fast food. She actually suggested I apply at the local Target where her yoga friend's teenage son works. When I pointed out that the temporary pay cut would be massive, she shrugged and said, "Beggars can't be choosers." The same woman who 4 weeks earlier had insisted we needed to renovate our perfectly functional kitchen because the cabinets were embarrassingly dated. That night, I made an appointment with a financial advisor. Isabella didn't know about this. Thought I was at a job interview. The advisor's face when I showed him our complete financial picture was educational. Turns out we were one major expense away from serious trouble. Isabella's spending had created a house of cards, and my job loss just knocked out the first level. Most concerning, she'd taken out a personal loan 6 months ago that I knew nothing about. $22,000 for what? Designer bags, a secret Botox fund, and a just-in-case account her friend Rhonda had convinced her every smart wife keeps hidden from her husband. I walked out of that office with 2 things, a clear picture of our financial reality and a slowly solidifying plan. Secure my own financial foundation separate from Isabella. Document everything for the inevitable fallout. Protect Catalina at all costs. Finalize partnership with Russell. That weekend was the neighborhood barbecue. Awkward as fuck. Everyone knew about my job situation by then, thanks to Isabella's whisper network. Most neighbors were cool, offered connections, suggested openings. But then Declan showed up, my ex-boss, the dude who fired me. Isabella practically sprinted across the lawn when she spotted him. For the next hour, she hung on his every word, laughing too loud at his lame jokes, touching his arm right in front of me. Right in front of his wife. Not subtle. Later, I overheard her telling him she'd love to hear more about opportunities at his company because someone in our house needs to be bringing in real money. Declan, to his credit, looked uncomfortable. His wife looked murderous. That night, I set up a separate bank account. Day 15 post-firing, Russell texted me that our first client meeting was scheduled. A major player in the industry. The meeting was incredible. They practically signed on the spot after seeing our presentation. The contract wasn't massive, but it was steady work for at least 6 months with good money. First brick in the new foundation. I didn't tell Isabella. Instead, I met with a divorce attorney, paid the consultation fee in cash. Learned exactly what I needed to do to protect myself and Catalina. The attorney didn't sugarcoat it. With Isabella's spending habits documented, her behavior toward me and Catalina, and my new income potential, I was in a surprisingly strong position. Day 18. Isabella cornered me in the kitchen. She'd been checking my browser history, invasion of privacy much, and couldn't find evidence of as many job applications as I claimed to be submitting. Then she dropped the bomb. She was reconsidering our future because she didn't sign up to support a man who couldn't support himself. The irony of her support claim when she'd contributed exactly 0 emotional support was apparently lost on her. That night on the couch, still sleeping there, I finalized everything. Lease on a modest 2-bedroom apartment near Catalina's school, opening docs for the business partnership with Russell. Scheduled movers for when Isabella would be gone. Day 20, Isabella announced she and Catalina were going to her sister Jones for the weekend. Said she needed space from all the negative energy in the house, aka me. I nodded and said I understood. First time I genuinely smiled in weeks. As soon as they left Friday afternoon, I executed the plan with military precision. Movers took my essential belongings to the new apartment, filed paperwork officially establishing the business partnership, transferred my portion of our joint savings to my new account, only my half, all documented. Left formal divorce papers on the kitchen table, included printed statements showing Isabella's secret spending, loan, and credit cards. Added a detailed custody plan for Catalina. Wrote a letter explaining that I wasn't abandoning our family. I was rebuilding myself away from someone who saw me as nothing but a paycheck. Saturday morning, our first press release went live, picked up by a local business journal and industry newsletter. Russell's existing business was partnering with me to launch a new division. Nothing huge, but solid, respectable, and with real potential. Isabella and Catalina were due back Sunday evening. Sunday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a notification. Isabella had just withdrawn $5,000 from our joint account. Last-minute panic shopping, flight risk, who knows? At 6:14 p.m. Sunday, my phone got the first text. Clearly, she'd just gotten home and found the paperwork. By 6:32, I had 5 messages. By 7:15, 12. By 8, 29. By midnight, 47 messages, voicemails, and missed calls. They started with pure rage. How dare you, coward? Crawl back home now. Then shifted to threats. I'll tell everyone you abandoned us. You'll never see Catalina again. Then financial panic. Where's the money? What did you do? Then finally, around message 38, the tone changed completely. I made a mistake. We can work this out. Please come home. I didn't respond to a single one, except a brief text stating that I'd pick up Catalina from school Monday for my scheduled time with her and that all communication should go through my attorney from now on. At 1:23 a.m., Isabella's sister Joanne called. I answered, expecting more abuse. Instead, she was calling to apologize for telling Isabella to dump my useless ass 3 weeks ago. Turns out Isabella had been planning to leave me anyway. The job loss just accelerated her timeline. Joanne had seen my business announcement online and realized what was happening. The kicker: Isabella hadn't even told her sister about the flowers in the sink incident or about calling me a failure in front of our daughter. She'd painted herself as the supportive wife dealing with a depressed husband. I slept better that night than I had in years, in my own place with no one telling me what a disappointment I was. Monday morning, I woke up to a LinkedIn notification. Declan, my ex-boss, had endorsed me and shared our business announcement with a glowing recommendation. Oh, and Isabella had slid into my DMs on every platform we shared, including, I shit you not, sending a friend request to my Strava running app at 3 a.m. That's when I realized this wasn't the end of the demolition. It was just the beginning of the rebuild. Final update. Welp, here we go with the finale you've all been waiting for. Not gonna lie, the support from you strangers has been weirdly therapeutic. Shout out to the Reddit hive mind. Y'all are more supportive than my ex-wife ever was. So there I was, waking up Monday morning in my new apartment. Bare walls, IKEA furniture I'd hastily assembled the night before with 3 screws left over that definitely weren't supposed to be left over. The place smelled like fresh paint and temporary decisions, but damn if it didn't feel like freedom. The first thing I noticed was the silence. No passive-aggressive sighs. No cabinet doors being slammed to communicate disappointment. Just peace. And my phone still blowing up with notifications. Message 48 came in while I was brushing my teeth. James, please just talk to me. This isn't fair. By message 53, during my first cup of coffee, I didn't mean those things. I was just stressed about money. Message 59, as I was heading out the door, I talked to a lawyer and what you did is abandonment. I can take everything. The psychological blueprint of someone panicking is fascinating to watch when you're not the one under the wrecking ball anymore. First stop that morning, Catalina's school. I'd emailed her teacher the night before explaining the situation. Miss Thompson was amazing. Had Catalina ready when I arrived. The look on my daughter's face when she saw me waiting was complicated. Relief mixed with confusion mixed with that weird guilt kids feel during divorce, even when none of it is their fault. In the car, I kept it simple. Told her mom and I were going to be living in different houses for a while, that I had a new apartment near her school where she'd have her own room, that both of us loved her very much, and none of this was because of anything she did. She asked if it was because I was a failure. Those exact words. Isabella's demolition work had gone deep. I had to pull over because my hands were shaking too hard to drive. I explained that losing a job doesn't make someone a failure. How sometimes companies just need to make changes, and it has nothing to do with how good you are at your job. Told her about the new business with Uncle Russell. Her response, "But Mom said you couldn't get a job because you're not good enough." There's a special kind of fury you feel when someone uses your kid as emotional ammunition. It's cold and calculated and sits in your chest like concrete. Anyway, took Catalina for ice cream, then to see the new apartment. She spent 20 minutes arranging her stuffed animals on the bed in the second bedroom. Said she liked that she could hear birds through the window. Small wins. When I dropped her back at the house that evening, Isabella was waiting on the porch. Hair perfect, makeup immaculate, new outfit I'd never seen before. The transformation was wild, from contemptuous to desperate in 72 hours. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. She started crying right there on the porch. Said we needed to talk, that she'd made a horrible mistake, that she'd been under so much pressure with her friends all doing so well, and she just snapped. I nodded. Said we would talk through our lawyers. Told Catalina I'd see her Wednesday for our next scheduled time together. Left Isabella standing there as I drove away. Brutal, maybe, but nowhere near as brutal as watching someone throw flowers in a sink and call you a failure in front of your kid. Tuesday morning. 17 new messages overnight. Plus, Isabella had gone full social media meltdown. Posted a throwback photo of our wedding day with some bullshit caption about fighting for love and standing by your partner through trials. The comment section was lit. Half her friends offering support, half clearly confused since she'd been trashing me to them for weeks. Russell called around 10. Our client was thrilled with the initial work. They wanted to expand the project scope. Not huge money yet, but steady and growing. The foundation was solidifying. Wednesday, picked up Catalina as scheduled. Isabella had coincidentally planned to leave just as I arrived. She was wearing the blue dress I'd always liked. Asked if we could grab coffee sometime just to talk. I said I'd consider it after the initial legal stuff was sorted. Her smile cracked just a little at the edges. Catalina mentioned that Mommy had been crying a lot, that she'd thrown away all the wine in the house, that she'd been cleaning obsessively. Classic stress responses from someone who's just realized they miscalculated badly. By Friday, 1 week post-separation, the message count had reached 106. They'd evolved from anger to begging to detailed explanations of how she'd support my dreams now and always believed in me deep down. Then came the financial reality check. Isabella's attorney contacted mine. She wanted to pause the divorce proceedings so we could attend counseling. My attorney explained that wasn't how this worked. She also pointed out that Isabella had maxed out 2 more credit cards since I'd left and asked about her plans to address the debt. Weekend, one of the new custody arrangement. I had Catalina Saturday through Sunday evening. We built a pillow fort, watched Disney+, made pancakes that looked more like abstract art than breakfast. She asked if we could get a dog now that we lived in the apartment. I said, maybe once we're more settled. Ordinary moments that felt extraordinary because they weren't overshadowed by Isabella's judgment. Sunday night, Isabella was waiting again when I dropped Catalina off. Had clearly been crying. Said she'd started therapy, that she was doing the work, asked if I'd noticed that she'd posted about my business success on her Instagram. I hadn't, because I'd muted her on all platforms. Week 2 post-separation. The message intensity decreased, but got weirder. She sent links to houses for sale, vacation rentals, screenshots of couples therapy options, a photo of our wedding venue with no caption. Digital desperation. Then came the ambush. Tuesday afternoon, Isabella showed up at my apartment. Just appeared at my door at 6:30 p.m. holding a bottle of wine and takeout from my favorite Thai place. How she found my address, I still don't know. Probably through a mutual friend. I didn't invite her in. We talked in the hallway. She cried. Said she'd realized what really mattered in life, that she'd been poisoned by social media and keeping up appearances, that losing me had made her see what she'd become. Maybe 6 months earlier, I would have melted, would have believed her. But the woman who throws flowers in a sink doesn't change in 2 weeks. The structural damage was too extensive for a quick patch job. I told her I appreciated her reflection, but needed space. That co-parenting Catalina was my priority now. She left the food and wine by my door and walked away sobbing dramatically. The neighbor across the hall poked his head out, gave me a yikes look, and disappeared back inside. Welcome to apartment living. Week 3. Isabella's sister Joanne called again. Said Isabella was spiraling, missing work, talking about giving me everything just to get me back. Joanne actually apologized for her own role in enabling Isabella's materialism over the years. Said their parents had always emphasized marrying well, and it had warped both of them. Meanwhile, Russell and I were building steadily. Nothing flashy, just consistent progress. My confidence was returning, not because of business success, but because I was rediscovering who I was without Isabella's constant criticism as background noise. 1 month after moving out, I agreed to meet Isabella at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She arrived 15 minutes early, according to the barista. Had ordered my usual drink and was guarding it like it contained the secret to reconciliation. The conversation was illuminating. After the initial tears and apologies, I asked one simple question. Why did you marry me? Her answer unfolded the entire architectural flaw in our relationship. She talked about how promising I'd seemed, how her friends had all been impressed by my potential, how she'd always imagined us rising through social ranks together. Not once did she mention love, partnership, or respect. When I pointed this out, she seemed genuinely confused. Of course she loved me. Why else would she have invested 12 years in building our life? The idea that marriage might be about more than investment and returns had never fully computed in her value system. I left that coffee shop with absolute clarity. There was no foundation to rebuild on. 6 months later, which brings us to now, things have settled into a new normal. Catalina splits time between households. Seeing a child therapist who's helping her process everything. The business with Russell continues to grow steadily, not making us rich, but providing stability. Isabella had to sell her luxury SUV and designer bags to cover debt payments. I started dating again casually. Nothing serious. Isabella moved in with her parents to cut expenses. Still occasionally sends remember when texts at 2 a.m. Yesterday was Catalina's 11th birthday. We held a small party at a local park, neutral territory. Isabella and I managed to be civil, even took a photo together for Catalina's sake. As we were packing up, Isabella pulled me aside and asked if I ever thought about trying again. Said she'd learned her lesson and grown so much. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was still beautiful, still perfectly put together despite her financial struggles. But all I could see was the woman who stood in our kitchen, threw flowers in a sink, and tried to teach our daughter that a man's worth is measured by his paycheck. I told her I was glad she was doing better, but that bridge had been burned beyond repair. This morning, I stopped by the same florist where I bought those ill-fated flowers 6 months ago. Picked up a small bouquet of wildflowers, drove to my apartment where Catalina was getting ready for school. I handed them to her, told her sometimes people just give flowers to show love, not because they want something or feel guilty. She smiled, put them in a water glass, we still don't own a proper vase, and asked if we could get ice cream after school. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about watching someone else fail. It's about building something better from the rubble they left behind. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more real-life updates right here on Once Loyal.